In one of my previous videos, I rambled about a gap in chess literature about certain types of tactics. Most tactical books will have positions in which it will say white to win, which means if you are white, you need to find some kind of tactics that will usually win or draw for you from a bad position. However, regardless of how many of those puzzles you solve, you still will lose some of your games due to the tactics of your opponent. I mentioned before that somehow different part of our brain is responsible for our opponent's tactics. So you can be really, really good in seeing tactics for yourself, but at the same time, you could be missing the opponent's moves. So today we will try to make an attempt to fill this gap a little bit, and we'll do a little bit of a training on how to constantly watch for the opponent move. Sometimes it'll be something really simple, but I want you to get into habit of looking for at least the next opponent's move before you make your own move. So in our first position, we will be black. And to make it just a little bit harder, I will always give you a choice of two moves. Because if I will just tell you one move, then it will be too easy for you to find the simple move for the opponent. So I will give you a choice for two moves. My suggestion would be you pause the video, think which one of those two moves you will play, and then click again on play to see the answer. In the first position, it's black to move, and your choice consists from rook a8 and rook f6. Which one of those two moves you will play? And the answer is that a logical rook f6 move to try to trade the strong rook on g6 leads to a disaster, because after rook g4, all of a sudden black queen is trapped and black is losing. Let's close this board, and we'll go to the next one. Okay, here we're white. So position looks a little bit messy. White king obviously is under attack, and two options we have is either to take a rook on c7 or to take a pawn on f4. Which one is better? And usually it's almost always better to take a rook, because rook is 5 points and pawn is only 1 point. However, in this particular case, taking the rook is a mistake, because after queen takes c7, black comes up with a rook sacrifice, and unfortunately, though we are threatening all kind of checkmates in one, it will be interesting to see how many ways can we checkmate him in one move. Queen b7, rook b8, queen c8, queen d8. Looks like queen takes c6. So at least 5 I can see right away. But unfortunately, this is never going to happen, because black has very primitive perpetual check. He checks white king along the third rank all the way, and that's a draw. So you have to take the pawn on f4, which will stop the perpetual, protect this pawn, and after he takes our rook, we take his. We're still up a pawn. The second pawn is about to go. Black king is in much worse shape than white, so white is winning. By the way, in most examples which I'm going to show to you, those bad moves were actually played. And in most of those examples, the player who made a mistake was a grandmaster. So though when you solve the puzzle and it looks too simple, remember that even strong players made those mistakes, so which probably means that it's not so simple. Go off to the next position. This time we are in the situation where it's black to move. Black's position does look worse by pretty much all parameters. We have rook on a8, not in the game, some pawn weaknesses, knight on c8 in a bad position. So two moves which I would suggest you consider are knight e7 and rook e7. Which one you like better? And the answer is that though knight e7 is a very logical move, because like I said, this is a bad piece, and clearly the chess player who had black pieces here made this move in an attempt to improve position of this knight, but there is a tactical problem. After g4, any bishop move will run into f5, black rook is trapped, and black is losing. Like in the first example, the problem is with a trapped piece. And this is how black lost the game. Rook e7 is an awkward move. We take away the square from the knight and give him chance to play g4 anyway, but it's better than losing game right away. Now let's move to the next one. Next game actually is a game between two very strong players, two strong grandmasters. White to move. White is up a pawn, but his advantage is not limited to extra pawn. The pawn on f7 is very strong, and black pawns are all under attack. There is possibility of maybe checkmating black on h7 at some point. So the choice is h5 or rook e8. Which one of those two moves would you prefer? And in the actual game, white played h5, allowing devastating queen to b4. And after that, white resigned because double attack on b2 and e1, game is over. So even strong grandmaster is capable of making such a mistake, especially in time trouble, which I assume was the case. And meanwhile, rook e8 should be winning. It does allow check on g1, but after bishop d1, white is going to be okay. White is still up a pawn, and he's just winning. By the way, when I suggest you two moves, not necessarily the second move is the strongest one. I'm just kind of, giving you two options almost at random. I know that the move which was played in the game was a bad mistake, and I just picked a second move, which is a decent move. All right, let's move to the next problem. Okay, in this position, it's white to move. And by the way, the problems, at least this problem, is a little bit harder than the previous one, but definitely doable for majority of club players. The choice is between rook c1 and the tactical shot bishop takes c7. So which one would you choose? Rook c1 or bishop takes c7? And the answer is that a quiet move in this particular position will be better than a flashy one. Bishop takes c7 looks like it wins a pawn, but it requires a little bit more calculation to figure out that it actually loses a game. In the real game, white missed that after rook takes c7, rook takes b4, black can play rook a c8, and all of a sudden white rook is under attack and rook c1 checkmate is coming and white is losing. So this is kind of very typical situation that I'm sure many of our listeners can relate to. You play a game, you see a move like bishop takes c7, and it looks like, oh, this is exactly the position I saw from the tactics book. I'm exploiting the pan. After rook takes c7, his rook becomes unprotected, and I can take advantage of this by checking on b4. And the goal of what we do now is to develop this sense of danger. So what I want you to start feeling is that, okay, looks too simple, it's possible that he has something. And if you will develop this sense of danger, if you will look hard for the opponent, in a lot of those cases, you will find some hidden resources, like, for example, in this one. I have some who are pretty strong players, but somehow this part of their game is not developed very well. They usually people who are very optimistic in life, and it's almost like you have to have this neurotic side about yourself to see such things. So the first instinct is, oh, this looks great, I'm gonna win. But it would be nice if you will develop this almost like a fear to a certain extent, not paranoia. We will not go as far as that, because then you become too passive and are afraid of everything. But just to becoming a little bit more suspicious, and then calculating a little bit deeper, and then you will see those opportunities. In our next position, it's white to move, and the choice is between knight c5 and rook e1. White is up and exchange for a moment. However, black potentially can have compensation for this exchange, because we can see how good this diagonal is, and how dangerous white king is in these situations. And rook e1 is actually a good move. And knight c5, which was played in the real game, is a blunder. Usually when you make move like knight c5, you feel safe, because the threat is to take this knight with a check, not mentioning that you're also attacking the bishop on b7. How bad could it be? Unfortunately, it turns out that after bishop h6, black has two threats at the same time. He's threatening to take the rook. This is kind of, quite hidden resource for black. So black is threatening to take the rook, and at the same time, black is threatening bishop e3 check, which will block the diagonal. And after something like rook e1, possible continuation, black plays bishop e3 check, and white king is in big trouble. King f1 loses to queen f7, and king h2 loses to queen b8. In both cases, white king is going to be checkmated. So rook e1 would be the correct move. But in order to find this move, you need to see why knight c5 is wrong. Because obviously, when you see knight c5, your first instinct is, oh, completely winning. Cannot be bad. And try to learn how to work hard for the opponent and find those hidden resources like bishop h6. The next position is an example of mistakes which happen in the positions when it's bad anyway. So whatever black does, his position is worse. For a moment, black is up a piece on the board, but white is about to win the piece back. And the only question is, how would you prefer to return the piece? Your choice is between bishop takes f6 and bishop h6. Which one of those two moves would you prefer? And the answer is that, unfortunately, as much as you would like to keep a bishop pair on the board, bishop h6 is a worse move. Because after bishop h6, white plays bishop e5, and instead of losing one piece, black will lose two. Queen takes c4 with check is coming, so after black moves his queen, for example, white is going to take on e7 first. That's probably what black missed, because queen takes c4, check, knight d5 is still a game. But unfortunately, after f takes e7, two of black pieces, actually three of black pieces are hanging, and white is going to win the second piece, winning the game. So the correct answer is after bishop takes f6, bishop takes f6, something like bishop f7. Despite extra pawn, black is still probably worse, but it's a playable position. And finally, the crown jewel of today's collection. In white to move, the choice is between b takes c4 and rook takes d5. So should you take a rook or should you take the pawn? I think we already had this question before. I'm sorry for repeating the same question. In one of our previous positions, I asked the same question. Should we take a rook or should we take the pawn? In the previous case, taking a rook was a big mistake. And in this particular one, taking a rook is the right move. In the original position, taking the rook is a fine move, as well as other moves, like for example, knight e6 check right away also would be winning. In this particular case, after all those moves, so basically I just stopped calculating right here. I thought, oh, this looks too complex. He takes my knight, and he's threatening queen takes a2, he's threatening queen b2 checkmate. Why don't I just check on d5? But here there is a simple solution, check. And here, if black plays king to d6, white doesn't have way to continue attacking the king, but after simple b takes a4, white queen is ideally placed to protect b2. So this was another way to win this game. So hopefully after this video, you will start working hard for your opponent, and before making your move, you will ask a question: what is his next move? Am I missing something? It might be not as easy win as I would think. Thank you for watching this video. Goodbye.